So the Alter Rebbe starts his explanation, 134 in Lessons in Tanya. Ach be'emes, the Alter Rebbe says, in truth, if you are precise, you're medagdik, you're particular in examining the exact wording of the Raya Mehemna that we mentioned before, and he quotes it, V'ilana de tov v'ra, it comes from the tree of good and bad, the il, which is isur, prohibited matters, v'heter, and permissible matters. V'loi omar, and the Alter Rebbe says, the Raya Mehemna does not say Toiras isur v'heter, or hilchas isur v'heter. It doesn't say the teachings of prohibited and permissible matter, or the laws. In other words, the Alter Rebbe is like with one word wiping away his question that he spent so much time elaborating on until now. And he says, it doesn't say in the Zohar that the teachings of all parts of Torah and the laws of all parts of Torah come from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. It says the items themselves have an association to good and bad, as he's going to explain in a moment. But not the teaching, chas v'sholem, not the laws. That's the answer to the question. So right away, he reconciles and he's comfortable with the words of the Raya Mehemna. Now he says, El Rotzel Loimer, what does the Zohar mean to say? The guf davar ha'asur, the actual item that's prohibited, the davar ha'mutera, or the item that is permissible, hu milana de tov v'ra, that comes from the tree of good and bad. The zeu loshin asur, this is why we use the word asur, right? Moshe, we say this is forbidden, it's asur. What does asur mean? Shehaklipa shore olav. Asur means bound. Avram, asur means it's bound. It's connected. What is it bound to? It's bound to klipa. And klipa rests on something that is not kosher, that is not permissible. Klipa is there. So when you eat it or you do something with it you're not supposed to do, you are allowing and bringing klipa into your life. Because that's what you're using, and klippa's right there. And it cannot ascend upward in a positive way. Kidov ramuter, like something that's permissible, which even if you use it or abuse it, you don't just use it, you abuse it, right? Whether it's overeating, over drinking, all the tithas that are associated with permissible matter, guess what? You can change. You can diet. You can diet for kosher, for fressing. You can diet. You can elevate. You can change. But when you eat one piece of treif, you can't elevate that. You can elevate yourself, and we do, by doing tshuva, of course. But the forbidden piece of treif is treif. And there's only one way to get rid of it, destruction. It's not for me, never again. Okay, let's go further. Dahainu she'eina kosher v'osir b'klipa. Something that is mutar, that is permissible by Jewish law, by halacha, by Torah, it means it's not bound to klipa. Klipa doesn't have dominion over it. And guess what? And this item can be elevated to Hashem through the person who eats it, b'kavana Hashem, by having kavana. Down the Alter Rebbe says also, v'gam b'stam, even if a person eats it with no specific intent of elevating it, like you say, I'm eating this ice cream, you know why? I need sugar in my body so I can be animated and powerful and stormy. And if I don't, I'll just be meager. Okay. if that's the truth in a given situation, your ice cream leaves the realm of a taiva to a realm of positivity and holiness and kedusha. But you can't say that about a cheeseburger. I ate the cheeseburger, and the cheeseburger gave me koyach, so I should be able to go put on tefillin and give a better drasha. Sorry, chap. The cheeseburger is bound to klipa. It's negative. It's negative. Now, there's a whole discussion, does negative energy contribute to the physicality of a human being? But I don't want to go into it right now, but they do discuss that. Right? Because scientifically, we have a doctor here, right? Whatever you eat adds to your flesh and blood. Millions of people who are Jewish and are, not yet kosher are eating non-kosher, and they walk around the street, and they're bodybuilders. No. Where did they get it from? Eating Reismans or whatever food, They got it from cheeseburgers and shrimp. V'chulu v'chulu. So, we have to look at that carefully. What is the concept of non-kosher within the body of a Jew? And this is discussion both in chapter 7 in Tanya in the first section and here, but I don't want to go into that, and I want to keep on going here. So the Gambistam, even if someone eats without a specific holy intent, Kol Odem Ho'evid Hashem, every person that serves God, Shebekoyach Ahilahi Leimed U'Mispal Hashem, and he uses that ultimately to daven more, to pray more, and to learn more and all that, it's positive. And therefore, what we have from this, Shenasu Oisis HaTeira V'Tfilo El Hashem, from his words of davening and learning, in a sense, to Hashem, from the energy distilled from that food. In other words, the life force that derives from Klippas Noiga is thereby elevated to Hashem. Next page, 136. V'zehu b'choil. This is true during the weekday. Chavra, now you ready? Now comes Shabbos, and we're only 2 days of Shabbos. Yain is not on yet, but he always liked to say about the fressing at the Kiddush. Well, there is some justification coming here for the fressing at Kiddush, okay? Moshe, this is relevant to you too as one of the Gaboyim over there with the Kiddushim. So here we go. Excuse me. Avol b'Shabbos, a Shabbos, sheyesh aliyah leklipas noiga bi'atzma. Now this is a concept, Velvu. Shabbos, klipas noiga gets an ascension, it gets an aliyah, it gets a high automatically. Shabbos is so holy, like Holy Shlomo used to say, right? The Heilig is Shabbos, the holy Shabbos. It's so holy. What's so holy about it? Go ask somebody. You can stuff yourself with more kugel. This Shabbos, we take out 3 Torahs. So I told one of the guys in shul who likes to bring things to shul for everyone to say l'chaim. He says, what's your order? Custom made for you. He says to me, I say, I want 3 kugels tomorrow. 3. Yerushalmi, because we go after Yerushalayim. Lakshan and potato. He says, you're going to eat it all? I said, no, I'm just going to have a little piece, and someone else have a little piece, and a third person. 3 kugels, 3 Torahs, 3 kugels. But all kidding aside, is that what Shabbos is about? Fressing more kugel? Come on. The Alter Rebbe says, on Shabbos, the klipa, the negative translucent husk that normally covers up the situation, disguises the godly spark and energy, has an elevation. Shabbos kind of overrides it. It's an override. Okay? And Shabbos, it says in Kabbalah, elevates what's called the external within all worlds. All matters of externality are elevated on Shabbos. Lochein, therefore, mitzvah lechol kol tainugim b'Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to eat all delicacies of Shabbos, right? Avram, you're walking in the shuk and you see this delicious thing. You got to do what Yosef Mokir Shabbos did, the famous story that we read to our kids and grandkids. I put it away for Shabbos. I see it on Sunday, on a Monday and Tuesday, and I don't bring it home and eat it then. I say, no, this treat is for Shabbos Kiddush. So when we read it and when we talk about it, it's like Shabbos, Shabbos. Here, Dr. Rebbe is opening up the... Yes, Moshe.
Rabbi Dalfin, when you just said about a minute ago, you said all matters of externality are elevated on Shabbos. When you use the word externality, I didn't quite...
Well, the word is used in Tanya, im hachitzonios, shebechol oilamos. Shabbos is characterized by the elevation of the worlds. Here he doesn't. He says together. Together with the external aspect of all the worlds. I'm not going to go into a sheer on externality, but basically it means something that is just done externally. It's not like an inner feeling and drive and understanding. It's external.
Like what? What would be an example?
An example is just eating, sleeping, being intimate, everything, but without any depth to it. You know?
Gashmias.
Yeah, Gashmias. Gashmias. The Gashmias itself. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. The very Gashmias itself has an aliyah. So, this is what he's getting at, that the eating Shabbos itself is elevated, even if you're not on the level where you have a deep kavanah and deep understanding. Shabbos takes you along for the ride. So, it's kind of chitzonios. It's external. What did I do? What did I do this Shabbos? I learned 7 hours Friday to prepare my... No, I did my work. I prepared and I ran around. It's all nice, and all of a sudden I say Shabbos comes. Your klippas noiga, your chitzonis is elevated, and go ahead, use your delicacies for Shabbos. That's what he says here. That you should know that a Shabbos kol tainugim b'Shabbos. I'll add something in a moment. Let me just first read a few more lines. Increase in the eating of meat and wine. Doing the same thing during the week, you're called a glutton and a drunkard. This is all as long as it's kosher. Now, what we just read, Hillel, is probably the reason why many Jews, they kind of indulge and go all out in their eating on Shabbos. And they say it's a covered Shabbos. You've heard this millions of times, right? The covered Shabbos. You would think from the Alter Rebbe here, he believes the same thing. So I'm telling you, as a Chabad Chassid with a tradition, that it was never that way. It never was. And whether it's fortunate or unfortunate that we have a lot of this going on today with these Kiddush clubs and these Kiddushim steaks in the middle of, the rabbi speaking, so half of the shul packs out to the Kiddush club, and you think you would have a little l'chaim. It's not l'chaim. Steaks and meats. I mean, it's really...
Farming stations.
Yeah, it's over the top. And I'm not, I'm not going into that. This is not the forum for that. But this is what, if you'll ask, what's the problem? Tainuk Shabbos. The more better meat, the cutting station, like Yoni says, the more the Tainuk. God forbid to think that this is what the Alter Rebbe meant here and what he's explaining. It is so far from what he means. And practically, it was never this way. by Yidden Bechlal, Chassidim, and all Yidden, and Chabad as well. Unfortunately, it's gone, haywire, and we won't go that way right now. We'll leave it for them. But I want to point out that the Alter Rebbe is talking about that if you have a delicacy, save it for Shabbos and eat it eat it, and the tainug itself. This is the explanation. It's very important. The physical pleasure that you get from whatever you're eating, drinking, or doing Shabbos is elevated to a higher plateau and level because of Shabbos, even though you're not there. In other words, like this. The same person will eat the same food Shabbos and during the week, and to the person he has the same pleasure whether it's Shabbos or during the week. If you believe that someone has more pleasure on Shabbos than during the week, you're way off, because pleasure is pleasure. If it tastes good and it's a good piece of meat or a good wine, it's going to taste good. And during the week, yes, Moshe.
Yeah, the only exception to that is cholent, right? Cholent, it's good on Shabbos. I'm sorry.
Right.
We all know that.
Yeah, and cholent, you know my story. When I was in Yeshiva in Morristown, when I came down at 4 o'clock to have some cholent, and I went and the whole pot was there was pickle juice and I said, what's going on? So my friend said, I'm not letting you eat cholent that's cold, and I put pickle juice to ruin the cholent, so you shouldn't take cholent, because cholent you don't need cold. Either it's hot or no cholent. And it was a great lesson. It was a great lesson. What?
But even if you have a cholent on Sunday night, right?
Yeah.
Not the same.
No.
Not the same.
Not the same. For sure not the same ulcers and the heartburn. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, it would seem to me that you went into a halakhic realm of contradiction, because you found out that Kiddush is not like your mavushal.
Yes, I did. I know exactly what we're talking about. But anyway, getting back to the text. So l'chayra, what's the difference whether you eat fried during the week, the delicacy, or the Shabbos? So the Alter Rebbe is sharing what it says in the Holy Zohar, because there's an aliyas ha'olamos, okay? The words is aliyos ha'olamos, the elevation of the worlds. Even the chitzonius are worlds on Shabbos, therefore it schleps it to a higher realm. But let's not kid ourselves. This is what I want to just clarify. Let's not kid ourselves. We feel the same pleasure in a good glass of wine on Shabbos like during the week. Okay? Most people. I'm not talking about a tzaddik. I'm not talking about someone who... Nevertheless, it says in the Sfarim HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe brings it here, because it's permissible. And it's Shabbos. Therefore, the tainug itself, the physical pleasure that you get from the drink and the food and everything else is elevated. And that's a great thing. And it's so that already, you see, when you take that to the next step, Yaini, if so, the more I eat, the more there's an elevation. So let me, pig out, let me fress, the more I eat. It's completely contrary to the message of what we're talking about here. Just for that. Okay, let's continue. Conversely, this doesn't apply to something that is prohibited. 137. Im loy, something is prohibited is prohibited. It is bound and connected to klipa, and I don't care with what intent you eat it, you cannot elevate it. And Shabbos cannot elevate non-kosher or something that's inappropriate. Im lei she'ochel lepikuach nefesh. There's an exception. If you need to eat to save your life. She'tiru razal v'nase heter gomor. The Razal, the sages, permit something that is forbidden for the purpose of pikuach nefesh, saving your life, and it attains, look what he says, it attains the status of heter, the status of permissibility, and the Alter Rebbe writes in the brackets, And Rabbi Yoel explained that Gomer, what is he saying, Gomer? Complete permissibility, because this is a very debated issue in the Talmud and Halacha. The question is, Tuma Hutra or Tchuya? Something that is defiled, and when for some reason we allow it to be used, is it that it's Hutra, it attains the status of permissibility, or is it still forbidden? But Chuya, we push aside the prohibition in this particular situation. And this is
what would be an example? What would be an example? I'm trying to
an example of eating something that Rafe when you're captured by the Hamas, Yimach Shemam. You don't eat, you die. Just now, the captives, every day they had this issue. I mean, they did their best to eat kosher, those that kept kosher, but if not, let's see, I'm saying, someone that's keeping kosher, and if you don't eat, and they know this food is treif that they gave him, and they don't eat, they'll die, or, so, yeah, the Holocaust, you had this is a simple issue, that's the issue. So do we say that the item that you're eating becomes permissible to you, or no? It remains forbidden, but halacha allows you to push aside the prohibition in this situation, but not that it in its very core essence became permissible to you. Okay, that's why Dalfin Rebbe puts it. Look, Hillel, how Dalfin Rebbe is so precise. He puts brackets around the word gomor. Right? He says, "V'nase heter," it becomes permissible. Gomor completely, but he puts brackets. Why is he putting brackets? Because of this question that I just mentioned to you. That's a question in the Talmud and in Halacha. Let's go on. Avol halimud HaTorah. This is all about the items themselves. When it comes to the study of Torah, av hilchos v'heter, including the laws of what's forbidden and permissible, tuma v'tara, what's contaminated, impure and pure. Shehema mishnayos u'braises Gemara. This refers to all the Mishnah and all the braises in the Gemara, u'poskim and the commentaries. Hamevayim u'mavarim divreim, who refine, clarify their words. La halacha lamaisa, bringing it to actual halacha. Hein gufei Torah shebapeh. They are the actual oral Torah. She's Sfiras Malchus Datzilus. This is the Sfira of Malchus Datzilus. K'tisa b'Zoyer HaKodesh, as it says in Zoyer, but B'Koybes say this, but in many places. Uvereish Tikunim, top of page 138. Also, this is mentioned in Reish Tikunim. Malchus Peh. This we say Friday night, Chevra, in Pasach Eliyahu. Malchus is considered the mouth. V'Torah shebapeh korin lo. And we say, and we attribute it to the oral tradition. So the oral tradition includes all of the Mishnah and the Braises and the Talmud and Halacha and all the commentaries and everything else. So uvatzilus iuvagamich behind, and in Atzilus Hashem and His causes are one. The Hainu, we'll stop after this. She'oirin Sof Baruch Hu, that the infinity of Hashem is Yachid, Ba'atzilus is united in the world of Atzilus, B'tachlis HaYichus, with the ultimate unity. Shehu v'netzaynai v'chachmosai, He, Hashem, His will and His wisdom, Hablu Boshem b'diburai, that's invested in His words, Shenikra Malchus, Hakol Echad, are all one. The Alter Rebbe says basically, I'll just read the paragraph here, the indivisible level of divinity can thus not be described in compound terms as the tree of knowledge of both good and evil, and the laws of the oral Torah, Mishnayos, Braises, and legal codes, which relate to the Sfira of Malchus, in the world of Atzilus, partake of the same individual unity. These laws can thus not be described in terms of the tree of knowledge of both good and evil. So this is the answer to his question. And then next week, Hashem, we will continue. The Shabbos is, like I said, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh with 3 Sifrei Torah. It's a great opportunity for many, many brachas, especially Chodesh Adar, which is, the Rebbe said, I heard from a mashpia from Migdal Emek, who was here in town last week, that the Rebbe once said Adar is Aleph Dar. And I asked the mashpia, is very knowledgeable, if he saw this anywhere. He said he didn't. He didn't see it anywhere before. So Aleph Dar. Aleph is Alufei Shalayim, God, the master of the universe. Aleph. Aleph Dar. God dwells in a dira. There is a guest. You invite a guest to your house. That's not Dar. Dar means you live there. This is your permanent residence, right? You travel to Chicago, you travel to Florida, you travel here, you travel there. Where is your permanent residence? You know, to get a mortgage in America, and I assume it's in Eretz Yisrael too, you know, you get a better mortgage if it's your residence, your first rent. If it's not, it's a rental property, or, you know, then they charge you more for the mortgage. Why? What's the psychology? It's not you. It's an adjunct to you. An adjunct to you. I don't have to pay for your adjunct. You pay me more. Pay me more for the mortgage. If it's you, meaning this is your residence, okay, then I give you a better break. The same idea is Adar. Talk about Mishnichtas Adar Marben Besimcha. So I've shared with you the word in the past, Mishnichnas. You got to go in. You want simcha, marben besimcha? It won't happen unless you do mishenichnas. You enter, you get involved. That's I like that word. But here I'm emphasizing another thing. The word adar is aleph dar. That you need to make. Hello, mute yourself, whoever's on, please. So the aleph dar means that the alufei shalayim, the master of the universe, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Dar dwells in your home in a permanent way, in you in a permanent way. So when we have the Aleph Dar together with the Nichnas, when you have both things together, then you experience Marm B'Simcha Kenti Elonu in Eretz Yisrael B'Frat, that we should have Shleimus Ha'aretz. And I'm thinking about this now. I'm going to make a clip about this. I heard from the Rebbe so many times his take on the whole issue of Eretz Yisrael. And it was so simple. It was based on a Rashi, on the first Rashi in Bereshis. You know, the Rebbe didn't philosophize and pontificate. He looked always, what does Torah say? Torah. And this is what I heard from him. For years, standing at the Farbrengens when he spoke about Eretz Yisrael, which was almost every Farbrengen, right? Especially in the times when there was issues like now, you know, similar issues. He said, Rashi says in the first Rashi on the Torah, Hashem gave us the land and took the land. That means the land belongs to us. And therefore no one is a balabas to give away our land. And if we stick with this nekuda, if I were a rich man, if we stick with this nekuda, we're going to be fine. And the enemies will dissipate. And the enemies will be scared of us. And I really hope, you know, and frankly, I don't know whether it's not political, but Trump says the same thing. Do what you have to. And now he says, I gave you the green light, you know, not that you need, but I gave you the green light, and you're playing around. You're playing around. I told you that by this time, all the hostages need to be released. Otherwise, we're wiping you out. They didn't do it, right? So, you know, as it says in Tanakh, we're our own worst enemies. And I'm not a politician, I'm not a strategist, I understand. But go with the Torah. Go with the Torah. And if you go with the Torah, you'll be all right. So what we can do in our lives is go with the Torah, even when it seems like it's not the popular opinion. You know, thinking about Camp David Accords, right? With Egypt, that was the Camp David Accords, right? Yeah? Am I right? Wasn't that with Egypt, right? So 30 plus,
yes, correct.
Okay, 30 plus years. The Rebbe was against the Camp David Accords. I don't know if you guys know that. The Rebbe was not for it. So everyone asks the question, Lubavitcher Rebbe, how can you, look, 30 years we have peace with Egypt. Well, what did we see here? Gaza and in Egypt. Okay? I'm just saying, don't think the Lubavitcher Rebbe was completely wrong, even politically or strategically. You know, in Mitzvah Shem, it will be good because the Eibishter loves us and he makes it good for us at the end. But I'm just saying, follow the Torah. You know, like you say, follow the money trail. For us Yidden, it's follow the Torah. When you follow the Torah, even if it's not popular, at the end, you'll see that it's the right way. Have a great Shabbos. Sei gesund, everyone. See you on Monday. Take care. Hatzlacha. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.